Hey everyone, welcome back to our weekly mindset series where we talk about a different mindset each week. Today we're going to be talking about a personal favorite of mine, although I don't feel like I fully understand it in some ways, again, still learning. But we're talking about manifestation. So the stone we use to represent that is blue apatite. And yeah, so Katie, I don't know, do you want to kick us off and talk about the stone a little bit?
Yes, so this is one of my favorite stones for the meaning, but also for just how pretty it is. It's like really pretty blue. Love it. Anyway, so blue apatite represents manifestation through creative understanding. It can remind you to assess inner needs and wants, clearing confusion and frustration. It can hold a powerful connection to meditation with its beautiful shades of earthy blue, reminding you that anything is possible. Love it. The best stone.
Because this is something that I have only recently, I would say, again, it's been it's funny how your journey, you start at a point and it's like, oh, and this turning point, you learn all of these things. So I feel like manifestation was one of those, I'd never even heard the word before or the law of attraction. Any of this stuff was never even on my radar or presented to me until I don't know, just a few years ago. What about you? When did you first kind of hear about manifestation?
Oh my gosh. I don't remember really when exactly it was, but when I was engaged and getting married,
that was a while ago.
I got engaged 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we've been married. No, it was more than 5 years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago. And I didn't know my now husband's family very well. We grew up together and we went to junior high together, had the same friends, but we didn't really do a lot at their house. So I didn't know his family very well. And his mom is very natural, likes all of that stuff, which now I like that too. But I knew nothing of that growing up because it was very you go to the doctor, you take your medicine. I have a lot of medical stuff in my history, so that was not real to me. It just seemed a little too woo-woo and weird.
Woo-woo is the classic word.
Yes. But now that's one of the only things that helps me is that side. Not that medicine is necessarily bad, it has its place, but that was kind of something that she was really into as well, was the mental mindset manifestation. And I don't think that she necessarily used the word manifestation, but that's kind of fit in the same category as what she really believed in and still does. And so that kind of got me into that side of thinking a little bit. And then just within the last probably 2 or 3 years, I've learned more about it, went to this really cool conference where they talked a lot about manifestation and mindset and all of that. And so that's when I really started learning more about it. And now I am constantly listening to podcasts and all of the things to learn more. And it's been amazing. I wouldn't have thought that I would be so into the idea of manifestation and the law of attraction, but it makes so much sense now that I know about it.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
It's great. It's one of those concepts. And I actually, when you were talking about the 5 years ago, and I was like, you know what? I really do think it was, and again, it's not it's an instant, oh, and now I know all about, it's we take these little, we dip our toe and we're oh, and it's just a slight shift in our way of thinking or something. And I remember, and I'm it's so silly, and maybe a lot of other people can relate to this, but I feel my sense of time a lot recently has kind of revolves around COVID in a weird way. 2020, that's a really big I was doing this stuff before. It's almost BC AD. It's before COVID, after COVID, it's we now live in this BC AC world. But I'm I actually think it has been closer to 5-ish years for me, because my first introduction to this, actually, because again, I've been doing my business for over a decade, so I listened to a ton of the podcast. I remember Jenna Kutcher was actually, her Gold Digger podcast was one I one of the first ones. I think my sister-in-law recommended it to me years ago, and she happened to have this lady, her name's Jen Sincero, on her show as a guest. And she was like, so she was interviewing Jen and she was like, tell me about this book. She was like, I had to have you on the podcast because so many women have told me that this book has like changed their life. Like, let's talk about it. And I was like, well, I listened to like Jenna Kutcher. I'm like, who is this Jen person and what is this book, you know? So the book was called, I don't know, have I ever told you about this before?
I don't know.
It's called You're a Badass, Jen Sincero. And for some reason, for me, that was my first, like, the first time I can like actually recollect. And I'm almost positive. Now I'm like curious. I'm like, I want to go back and like find that episode and be like, okay, wait, which episode was that? But that was like my first experience, like reading that book. She kind of taught, and it's not like, again, the book is about like manifestation, but it definitely had this concept. And I just remember like listening to the audiobook, like in the shower, driving, and, you know, like whatever, and just being like, what? Like it just like this like little bit of like this expansion. And so again, like it's funny because I'm like, the book changed my life. I mean, it did, but it was one of those first, it hit me at like the right time, at the right place where I was kind of like ready for that and a little more receptive to, I don't know, just kind of like that way of thinking and looking at the world. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's how it is a lot of times. You can't just be open to receiving everything at once. And you just get these little tidbits here and there until you can recognize that, oh yeah, that is something that I'm interested in. And maybe that's not the experience that a lot of people have, but I don't just jump into things fully. So I think it was just little step-by-step, little things learning along the way that made it something like, oh yeah, no, that's something that I can definitely believe in.
So this is the one I want to talk to you about, because this is where I always get stuck though with this concept. So it's like, okay, because again, this is with our jewelry, a lot of that is around this concept of mindset, and this particular, like all of these pieces, you're like trying to channel this exact thing, but really they're all like, okay, what am I focusing on? What am I manifesting? I'm manifesting love or patience or abundance. And this is the actual stone. Like, no, I'm manifesting more manifestation, you know, goal setting and focus. But like, where is that line between, okay, like I think something, I believe something, I see it, I make it a reality? Because I'm like, I feel like it doesn't always happen, and it does. And then I get really stuck on the negative piece of it. And like this, so when bad stuff happens to us, did we manifest that? Do we manifest everything? Do we just manifest some things? Like it's, I don't know, like do you have, this is where I'm like, I'm so close, I get it. And then I'm like, wait, no, I get really confused about this concept. What do you think?
Well, that's hard because what I've been learning recently in my podcast, there's this lady, she's amazing. Can't even think of her name. Faith. Her name is Faith. She's from the That Healing Feeling podcast.
Nice.
And entire business around that. And she talks a lot about manifestation, and your mindset is how you can heal, whether that's chronic illness, which is her main focus, which is kind of what got me to her. But even just in other things, like just because you're thinking about something and you're trying to make it happen, you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper, because you can't just, I mean, you can, like saying these affirmations and saying that, okay, this is what I'm thinking about, isn't necessarily going to change your life just on its own. My understanding is that you have to dig deeper and go to your like core beliefs. Like, what are the things that you believe that might be holding you back? Because your brain is actively going to try to find proof and evidence of anything that's going to affirm those beliefs that you have. So if you have a belief that I'm never going to make money, my business is going to fail, whether you're consciously thinking that or not, if that's somewhere a belief that you have, your brain will find evidence to make that true. And so for me, when bad things happen, I wonder, okay, is there something that I need to change in myself? Do I need to rethink something? And not that you necessarily caused bad things to happen, but it might be a learning curve or something that you need to focus on and kind of re-teach yourself and redo your beliefs, I guess.
Okay.
So I don't know. And I just think whether you believe in God or a universe or whatever it is you believe in, you just have to think, this is happening in my favor. Like, do I learn from this?
Yes.
Is this going to lead to something better? And kind of with that mindset, I think it becomes a little bit less like, oh, okay, fail, whatever. Like, no, what do I need to learn from this? This is in my favor.
Yes.
Why is it happening? Kind of thing. So
I think we talked about that too, again, in some of the previous episodes, but I really love that concept of everything is happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't remember, again, I've listened to lots of books or podcasts, but that like resonates so hard with me and just like my little positive sometimes-ish personality. But, and I know it's so much harder sometimes, like, especially when we're talking about like really, really heavy stuff, like the trauma, the heartbreak, like some things that almost just seem like so unmanageable. Like it's almost like I at least I know, like, it's like I have this visceral reaction to like being like, I cannot believe that this is for my good or want this to be for my good. Like, I'm just like, you know. But I do think overall I try to kind of just naturally have that belief kind of circulating in my mind. Like, what the stupidest thing happened, I'll tell you this story. So I'm in the bathroom and somehow I had like this stick of deodorant and it was not like, I just wasn't loving it. I was like, I feel like it's not doing a very good job. And but then there's that little silliness in me that's like, but I need to use it because otherwise that's so wasteful, and it's fine, I'll just use it. Oh gosh. I'm really hating this stick of deodorant. And I have other sticks. They're literally like, we buy in bulk at, you know, the warehouses or whatever. Like, I have like 4 sticks down there just waiting to get used. So I'm in the bathroom and I drop it.
Oh my god.
And it like cracks into like the little piece that was inside falls out, and it's just like, and I just stood there and I was like, thank you, universe. Because I was like, you know what? Like, I manifest. This is for my good. I was like, I really didn't want to use this stupid stick of deodorant. But I really, like, I can't help but wonder sometimes, like, how many of those things we're doing in our life, like, subconsciously, because I like, is that what caused me to drop it? Maybe not, but it's just, I don't know, it's a really interesting piece to think about, like that subconscious, like our brains, I think, are so much more powerful than we realize.
For sure.
And I feel like we could talk for days and days and days to that about, you know, just vibrations and like all of those senses and things that we're not even aware of and don't understand and can't see. And I think like we're getting to that point, especially like I said, with the energy and the vibrations, like science is like kind of almost getting, they've done a lot of stuff where you can actually prove these different kind of magnetic forces, powers.
It's real.
That it's real. And just because we don't have those tools or that understanding yet, it is like, again, like, and what are they've always taught us growing up that we use like 4% of our brains or something insane like that. Like
the tiniest little bit.
Like what are we actually, like, thoughts, like what does that actually like do? And again, especially like those subconscious thoughts, like that's, I think, the piece that so many of us like underestimate or don't like believe in, because they're so like, you don't even realize they're happening sometimes.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And it just blows my mind because I'm like, wait, so like I could do that?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You see all of these people, like these influencers and these people that are just really in the nitty gritty of manifestation and subconscious retraining your brain, all these things. And it's so cool. And sometimes it gets overwhelming because it's like, how did you even get there? And so I think I just love learning more about it because it makes it more real. The more that you put that attention and focus on something, the more that it's going to give you that energy, and that's where it's all going to flow to. So I think it's really cool. We could talk forever about this. That it really is like the foundation of our company right now, which is cool, but also like there's so much we could
It's so deep. We could go on and
Go
on
on,
forever
yeah.
with all of it, which is why I'm glad we do one of these every week, because
Yeah.
otherwise we can just sit here for hours and hours and
I
talk about
know.
all the things.
Well, we kind of do.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Do you want to close with the affirmation?
Yes. Yeah, I can do the affirmation. Okay. So the affirmation for the manifestation Blue Apatite stone is I trust my vision to manifest my desires.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week for another Mindful Mindset.
Bye.
Bye.